In recent years, the homeowner, who is an absentee landlord, is out of the country for an extended period, submitted a building permit application to create a second dwelling unit in the basement. Obviously, this was a very busy location. The building permit was issued for a required set of work to be completed, including the homeowner's duty to request an inspection for completed work. A building inspector followed up, given the absence of required inspection requests. So there was a number of times where the city went to inspect the location. It resulted in an order to comply being issued on the property.
This is the Alex Pearson Show.
Thank you for joining us. That is the voice of Patrick Brown, mayor of Brampton. He came out to speak earlier at the scene of a fatal fire taking place in Brampton. And that information that we have confirmed so far, 2 people have been found dead. A number of others sent to hospital appear to be okay, but there are 3 people still missing. So that is not yet known as to what happened to them. So it's been a really deadly day, and certainly the questions automatically start coming to mind. How many people were living in this particular house? Was this a house that had fire systems working? Were people warned? There's going to be all sorts of questions and certainly investigations that the Ontario Fire Marshal have to do now, because, whether or not the people in that house had time to get out, and whether or not it was a legally, rented place, all of these things become factors. And certainly in an area like Brampton, where we have been reporting for a number of months, a couple of years, in fact, the fact is that there are a lot of people living in homes. In fact, we've reported up to 25 people at a time living in homes, which then, if something goes wrong, and it can, fire departments have no idea who's in the house, how many people are they getting out. And so it's been a very, very big problem. I want to bring Rowena Santos into the conversation. She is a city councillor in Brampton, also known for championing housing enforcement reforms. And this is through a program that Brampton launched, the Residential Rental Licensing Program, Lodging House Plan. Thanks, Councillor, for joining us here today.
Thanks, Alex.
There's going to be a lot of questions, certainly, that we don't have answers for. Certainly, the mayor gave us, I think, a lot of information. But is this particular address, is this an address that was known to council? Is this the kind of thing that council's seen quite a bit as far as, rooming houses or renter issues?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say condolences to all the friends and family of the victims of the fire today and those who are recovering in the hospital. Our thoughts are with all of them. In terms of this property in particular, what I will say is that it is a sad and tragic example of the worst of the worst. Yeah. The things that we implemented the RL program to begin with respect to this particular area. So when we implemented the RL pilot program, the residential rental licensing program, licensing landlords to rent out their properties, it's a pilot program in specific wards. So my wards 1 and 5, 3 and 4, which recently got expanded only towards wards 2 and 8. So this particular house is located in an area that is currently not covered by that licensing program.
All right. So what does that mean? I mean, it sounds like I'm being trite, but what does that then mean? Is this a house that fell under in a neutral zone? Is it is this like a kind of a neutral zone gray area that allowed the landlord to kind of fall through the cracks?
Well, it's certainly an illegal rental. We know that there were advertisements for renting of this space because it didn't fall under the pilot program. Right. They weren't necessarily required to get a landlord license in the same way that some of the other wards who have rental units, multi-unit dwellings that are being rented out would have otherwise. Now, the licensing program allows the city, gives us a little bit more proactive measures to conduct inspections, to deal with complaints, to put red flags on properties that might be of concern, particularly as it relates to fire issues and fire code. So this particular unit, because they were applying for a basement apartment in the past, would have been captured proactively, right, requiring the landlord to get a license. But because they were not, they didn't receive that same notice. And unfortunately, we are now seeing the result of today.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm making an assumption, and correct me where I could be wrong, but I mean, it's not just the number of people that end up getting into these illegally run rooming houses and upwards numbers of 25, but a lot of times they don't comply with things like fire or smoke detectors and that kind of thing. And I don't know what you know about the particular complexion of this house, but we do know, I think, that because the mayor did say that the landlord wouldn't even be here, right, in this country. So what would the next steps be for the city of Brampton?
Well, the investigation is currently happening. We'll have to wait to hear from the fire marshal to find out the cause of the fire. We're still looking for 3 more individuals who are unaccounted for. And we'll see what happens. And assuming that the 4 survivors from the fire are able to be okay and get out of their horrible situation right now at the hospital, I'm sure there will be questions from them for them as well. So the investigation is certainly ongoing. I will say that, the city, as per the mayor said, was in numerous attempts to get in touch with the absentee landlord who clearly did not take responsibility over their own property. In speaking to one of the residents as I was leaving the scene today, one of the residents in the neighborhood, they had indicated to me that they haven't seen that owner of that property for 7 years. And sadly, Alex, this is a common issue in the city of Brampton with rental units. As I was leaving the site, I spoke to another neighbor on a corner house and said, "Were you here? I'm sorry. Did you know the victims of the fire?" And he said, "No, I didn't know them. I'm just a renter at this house." So again, another rental home. And I immediately said to him, "Are your smoke alarms working?" Right?
Because, well, okay. So just before I run out of time, so where does the conversation then go? Because I know Brampton's been, discussing ways of getting, do we legalize these things so that at least we can get some kind of system in so that renters are documented? Like, what does the conversation look like? And then the other side of it is, I mean, if there's an absentee landlord, things like insurance liability come into play. So what then support is for the people living in the rental? I mean, if there are people who have been injured by fire and they don't have any kind of insurance and they've got injuries and such, they're going to be on their own, right? Yeah.
And that's what the residential RRL program is all about, is to try within our own jurisdiction in municipality of Brampton to proactively deal with these things. So yes, we know that illegal units exist in Brampton. They have for many, many years. We wanted to crack down and create a system like this because, like any other business, if you're renting out your house and making money, you're a business. You need to get a license to operate, just like a hair salon, just like any other, restaurant, for example. You have people living there, cooking there. You have to maintain their safety. There's fire code, building code. So you need to get a license. And that licensing system gives us a little bit of a framework, more teeth to do proactive inspections, get entry, talk to the tenants, etc., to make sure that the place is safe so that situations like this do not happen.
Well, unfortunately, and I just think there's a lot more of it going on than any of us know in every community. It's a very big problem, but let's see if we get a wake-up call here and get our heads around it to fix it. I appreciate
so too. And I think I'm just going to add one more thing, Alex. With the federal and the provincial government saying to municipalities that we must allow more residential rental units within existing communities, more additional residential units, multi-unit dwellings to be rented out to help address the housing crisis. What they are not actually giving municipalities the tools for is to deal with slum landlords like this.
And they're not new, right? It's like it's a known thing, and I think it's very easy to fix. It just doesn't get fixed.
That's right. So we're trying in the city of Brampton. Unfortunately, this one was just outside of the pilot program, and hopefully local councillors will agree that it should be back onto the pilot program now.
All right. Stay tuned. There'll be more questions another day, but I do appreciate you jumping on certainly this soon after with the information you did. Councillor, appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, that's Brampton Councillor Rowena Santos. So we've already got, I think, a very good indication of what's going on. Unfortunately, it'll come at a very great price. But I think a lot of this has to do with the people renting themselves. And a lot of times they don't know what the rules are, or maybe they're coming from a different country. Maybe they're new here. Maybe there's a language barrier. They don't even know what their rights are, and or they don't know what questions to ask. But certainly they're the ones who could report this stuff because ultimately they do end up paying the price when things go wrong. So we'll get continued coverage and get as many answers, as we can. But sadly, I think we're already starting to answer the questions. When we come